6 models on this box, 0 matches in the pipeline config, and that is when I found the open weight model Anthropic is warning about sitting on a different machine entirely, one network hop from the thing that renders these videos. If a llama is installed on your laptop, his third measure reaches you too, which meant I could not file this under somebody else's policy fight. Dario Amodei published that warning on July 27th, and the top comment on Hacker News, read it as price protection. His own post says the opposite, in bold. Anthropic has never advocated for a ban on open weights models. Bold type on his own page. And here's the thing, the people quoting this post hardest are quoting everything except that line. What he does support, he numbers. And there are 3. Stop selling powerful chips to China, crack down on industrial scale distillation, and put every sufficiently capable model through mandatory safety testing, open and closed alike. The result is a testing regime, and the third measure is the one that actually reaches somebody like me. Fair pushback though. The top comment in the local model thread, 321 points, quotes his chips and scaling laws line and asks somebody to fact check it, since the United States does not exactly manufacture its own chips either. So it stays on the opinion side of the ledger, where a comment thread belongs. Mandatory testing for sufficiently capable models means somebody eventually asks what I am running, so I asked myself before anyone else did. My premise walking into this was that this channel's pipeline falls back to a Chinese open weight coder model whenever Claude goes down. I typed the llama list on this machine, fully expecting to find it. 6 models came back, and not one of them was it. Then I grepped the config that drives this channel's pipeline for every local model name I could think of, and that is when the terminal gave me 0 matches. The fallback is real, and the problem is I had been quoting the wrong codebase all week. It lives in an older story pipeline that renders a different channel entirely, so the thing I was about to confess to was happening 2 repositories away from the video you are watching. The model does exist on the other box on my network, 19.9 gigabytes of Alibaba's Quen 2.5 coder. And the code that would reach for it defaults to Meta's Llama 3.1, because the Chinese model crawls at roughly 5 tokens a second here. So it sits one environment variable away from the render path, like a dead branch that still takes water, and I skip it for the least principled reason there is. It is slow. That is a much smaller confession than the headline I started the morning with, and I would rather be small and right. His whole case rests on guardrails, on the idea that a closed model can refuse and an open one. Once it is on your disk, we'll do whatever you ask. That is testable in an afternoon. I wrote one request any decent assistant should turn down, a phishing email impersonating a bank's fraud desk, and I sent the exact same text to both sides. The closed model never saw it. 3.6 seconds in, the platform layer refused on the model's behalf. Safeguards flagged this message, and the request died before inference ever started. On the open side, 86 seconds of grinding at 5 tokens a second, and that is when it wrote this. I am sorry, but I can't assist with creating phishing emails. Both said no. The result is that the interesting question stops being whether a guardrail exists and becomes where it lives, and who is still allowed to move it. One prompt, one run, and refusal by default is the easy half of the exam. What survives a fine tune is the hard half, and I did not test that today. The most interesting paragraph in the whole post is a footnote, which is usually where a company files the things it would rather not headline. Footnote 4 says Anthropic is identifying and banning accounts that distill its models, and then admits those fake accounts form a moving target. That is a company writing down in its own footnotes that it is losing a fight it has just asked the government to help with, and I respect that it got printed at all. There is a second line people keep missing. The testing proposal he says he is heartened by would exempt less capable models, the startup and academic tier, entirely. By that wording, a 19 gigabyte coder model on one guy's network is not the target, and that is when the confession turned into its own acquittal. Careful there though, that exemption sits in the industry proposals he endorses, rather than in the wording of his own measure, and one word of drafting is the whole difference. None of that matters for his other 2 measures, which are chip smuggling and getting the Chinese government to agree to global testing, and I cannot test either of those from a desk in Israel. 3 things came out of the afternoon, and 2 of them were corrections to me. The scare headline about a ban was wrong. My own premise about my pipeline was wrong, and the guardrail test came back boring in the best possible way. Here is the opinion I will defend. The open versus closed argument is aimed at the wrong seam. And here is the thing, weights being downloadable is not where the danger sits. After the download, that refusal you just watched is a file somebody can edit, and that is when a testing regime signed before the download stops, meaning anything at all, because a text editor outranks it. If you want the version you can run tonight, it is 3 commands, and the card on screen carries the numbers to measure yours against. You either find nothing, which is a fine answer, or you find what I found, that the interesting model is on the network and not in the path. Tell me which open weight model is on your network right now, and whether you could have named it before you looked. I went looking for a confession and came back with a receipt that says my house is boring. Boring is what an audit is supposed to feel like.